Hello, hi.
Oh, hi.
Thank you for joining, and thanks
My
everyone
pleasure.
else who has also joined. So just a quick introduction. I'm Shivani again with another live. Today's live, as we all know, or perhaps don't know, is about a guide for empaths, which obviously is more relevant right now for those who know what it is. But I think we'll get into that. But just before that, I would like to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Swarali. And she's a psychiatrist practicing in Mumbai. Hi, Dr. Swarali, and thank you for being here to speak about what exactly an empath is and how we can, deal with being an empath or what we can do about it. So, I mean, obviously, I'm using this word a lot for everyone watching. So, I have always felt like, felt a bit too much. And, it's always about, putting needs of others before me, even when I don't realize that. I am just more focused on making everyone else comfortable sometimes. And, I've seen other people doing that as well. And I think for a long time, there wasn't exactly anything, maybe, like a certain word to say what that is. But I think maybe this word is something that we can, relate to, especially me. So just to get into the specifics now, Dr. Sorali, what do you think this word means and what connotations it has?
Hi. So, thanks a lot for inviting me, and I'm really glad to be part of this interactive session. I really wish that it can be as interactive as possible. I don't want it to be as a didactic, boring lecture. Uh, Rather, I'd prefer if people come up with their own anecdotes or their own experiences. So Shivani really, it made a very nice introduction with a personal, experience. And this topic is something which is very personal to me as well. Growing up, I have realized what kind of a person I am, what kind of emotional capacity I have, what is the level of emotional sensitivity that I have. And it is really important for us, today our topic being, navigating through our 20s. Me being in my late 20s, I have realized that, in our early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, early 20s are mostly about, experimenting, exploring, trying to identify who you are as a person, as a
Yeah,
youngster, as an adult, rather. You're just out of your teenage. You may or may not be graduated. You may or may not have a job. You may or may not be near to your family. But the crux remains that you have to find out who you are as a person, as an individual, rather. And that's where this concept of empath comes in, where gradually you start identifying who you are. It may start before 20, nothing like that. There's no hard and fast rule that it should be 20s, but 20s is somewhere you're launching out. You're kind of at the verge of, starting to be independent or starting to have your own opinions. You're trying to make your own identity. So that's where you are on your own journey. So I would rather say that it's mostly, it's like a journey. And it has been a journey for me as well. Uh, so when I talk about empaths, let's talk about empathy first, where empathy is a very complex emotional capacity an individual has, or rather, the world should have, which is, putting yourself in another person's place, or trying to, when we say empathize. So there is a difference between empathy and sympathy, where sympathy is just trying to, uh, trying to pacify, or trying to acknowledge that, okay, this is a person's um, situation, or this is something which is really bad that has happened. Whereas empathy is something where you keep yourself in the other person's place and experience what that person is going through. So empaths are people. So if we talk about this, emotional capacity, Judith Orloff uh, uh, describes it on a spectrum, where on one end of the spectrum we have somebody who's highly sensitive. They're very sensitive to the cues around them, very sensitive to the environment around them. However, on the other end of the spectrum, we have empaths who are, along with being sensitive, uh, they also absorb what is happening around them. So they're like an emotional sponge, where if we take a sponge, so whatever you keep this sponge in, it'll start absorbing whatever energy it has around it. When I talk about energy, it's not in terms of physics or any other science, but it's just the metaphorical, when we call it as vibe, or whatever we feel around us whenever we are in a social situation or whenever we are in an environment. So empaths are people who are emotional sponges, and they tend to absorb the energy around them. So if they are in a very chaotic situation, they have a very highly sensitive neurological system. So they're not able to maybe able to focus on certain thing, or they may need a certain grounding to be able to focus on something, or they may you know they may need to get in touch with themselves to be able to utilize their power of empathy or the power of being an empath. Empaths are innately known to be very creative and also are very intuitive. But if they don't realize that being an empath is not a weakness, rather it's a strength, they may not be able to utilize their creativity and their innate ability of intuition.
Great. That was so insightful to know, even as someone who already knew like what I was, and I knew what the word means essentially. But just having it put like that, I think I just feel like, I don't know, okay, yeah, validated, I guess. And that's something that, okay, yes, I can relate to. Oh my God, it's something, when you define it in a way, you feel a bit better about it. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. So since you, I think, so rightly said that empaths are like sponges, right? And I feel, well, a sponge after a certain point gets saturated and it needs to be, squeezed out or just cleaned. So, in that sense, then using that same analogy, what would you then say, as a person? How should we, sort of detox ourselves out of those vibes, that energy that we've been absorbing may not have been completely ours, but people who are around us, it's always obviously not always positive. It can be negative, a little bit too negative, and it can make us feel a bit lower. Not even because it's personal to us, but it's just something that we see and we feel it. So how do you think, empaths, or just, people who maybe, relate to this feeling should, care for themselves? Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So being an empath, you start uh, identifying, or you start catching things around you. However, gradually you also understand that the environment may not be in your control. However, what you have to understand is that uh, you may have to ground yourself and identify when it's getting too much, or identify when it's uh, when it's going to, getting exhausted, or you're getting saturated. And there are certain methods that you can use uh, in order to ground yourself. there are very common methods that are used in all kind of settings, be it meditation, be it you know um, uh, be it setting boundaries to certain kind of environment, from a certain kind of environment, from certain kind of people, or where you start feeling that okay, this environment is getting toxic now, I need to stay away from this. So you have to take a stand and have to create a boundary in order to protect your own that emotional sensitivity or that emotional capacity that you have.
Yeah.
Also the it's a very broad topic, and it may need, we may need another day to discuss all the other things. However, I still feel that it's very important for anybody who's an empath to firstly identify and nurture that emotional capacity one has. And it's a
Mm.
journey. It has to be a journey. It cannot be something which is, which happens overnight, or something which you learn overnight. It has to be a journey. And it's great that we're talking about it in the context of navigating it through our 20s, that because it's never too
Yeah.
late.
Yeah, I think as being a 25-year-old myself, I mean, knowing that this is something that is the kind of person you are and not something that's wrong with you is actually life changing, because then you understand, okay, this is how I work, and it may not always be good. Like we take the negative part that we see, a bit too personally sometimes. So just knowing that that's not how it should be, but and then knowing ways how to deal with it. So just thinking about that point, I'm wondering, like, so you said that empaths can be really sensitive, so how should one then kind of try to let's say navigate through bifurcating what feeling is right to process and what should not be, taken too seriously. Like how do we get that balance?
So uh, when we talk about empath, initially, uh, when I was going through uh, my 20s and learning about being an empath, uh, what I realized is, you know, uh, broadly, if we say, uh, there are many types of empaths, many different types of empaths. But if we talk in terms of personality wise, we know broadly, there are introverts, there are extroverts, and there are many other types of personalities. Uh, but if in terms of empaths, if we say there could be introverted empaths, there could be extroverted empaths. So as an introvert and as an empath, as an introvert, I prefer staying, I prefer having my own time. I prefer having my own space of safety, or my own circle of safety, or my own bubble of invisibility. Also, being an empath, I try to extract the energy around me. So I extract the energy which is in the in my bubble of safety, or in my circle of safety. On the other side, if I'm an extroverted empath, I like to be with people. I'm a social butterfly. I like to be at crowd places, or like meeting people, talking to people. But at the same time, I'm an empath. So I'm going to extract what they're feeling, what they're saying, or what I'm seeing around me. Or, for example, if there is somebody who's being a victim around me, I am being an empath. I may tend to absorb what the other person is feeling, and these 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 whatever we absorb may make us exhaust, or we may tend to get exhausted very easily. Hence, it's very important for us to, as I said earlier, to identify that okay, now maybe I'm getting exhausted. I'm at the verge of getting exhausted. So I need to draw a line, or I need to stay away from this person where, I may, this person may drain me, or this person is so toxic that,
Yeah.
it's going to drain me a lot. I'm going to get
Yeah. So just
exhausted.
knowing when to cut it
Yeah.
off and just setting
And
boundaries then.
yeah, and being an empath, it's very difficult for us, difficult for me also, okay, I don't want to listen to your sad story. I'm sorry. It's very difficult for
Hmm.
us to say,
Yeah,
because
because I
being
have my own going on.
because as an empath, it's our innate capability, or it's our innate nature.
Yes, to be there. Um,
Yeah,
in case if anything, even when we're falling apart, just stay there. Know that person needs help. You're
yeah,
there. The guilt that comes later on if you even try to, just not be there and be like, okay, I have to put myself first. Oh
yes,
wait,
yes,
does that also make me selfish now? Like
yes,
all these
yes,
like things, I think there's just such a thin line between knowing what's okay not to do and what's okay to do for yourself. I
yeah,
think that it's just, I think, a matter of time where you just have to tell yourself that it's okay to
yeah,
put yourself first sometimes, right? Like
yeah,
you said. And it's just, how just the boundaries, I think, so important. Even setting them can exhaust us
yeah,
sometimes, and
yes,
enforcing boundaries, that's
yes,
because, if you're not used to that, just the thought process that goes into that,
yeah.
even, I think, is something that, empaths really struggle with. I mean, I do myself.
And other kinds of empaths, such as animal empaths or plant empaths, people empaths who are very close to nature. They feel connected to nature. They feel, they extract some positive energy from nature, or they really feel, the pain of animals. They like being around animals. They like being around plants. So it's really about identifying who you are. For example,
Yeah.
when I was in my early 20s, or say mid 20s, I really had, like, I almost had a garden of my own. I rescued a lot of animals, and it
Oh,
gave me a
wow.
lot of joy. I still do that, and it really keeps me grounded. It keeps me alive. It keeps me
Definitely.
true to who I am, and it really,
Yeah.
really feeds my creativity. It feeds my intuitiveness. I really strive to be an intuitive person, be it as a clinician, as a human being. So it really helps me to feed my, innate capacities as an empath.
Right. So that's, I think, one of the examples of where you can get the positive energy from as an empath. I think that's great. I think, we should all, I think that's one really great way to, just know. I think when you're okay to, where is it that you find happiness, or where's that you find peace, whatever works for, whoever, I think. And just in that way, I mean, being an empath, just, dealing with everything ourselves, the emotions and, situations and everything, balancing, it's hard enough, but how does, a loved one of an empath, care for them? So obviously, like, show them love. Or is there any difference, do you think, in loving a non-empath, or caring for a non-empath and caring for an empath?
I feel loving an empath is very easy, because it's kind of, it's
It's just this warm bundle of joy and
yeah,
happiness. They keep making me
yeah.
happy.
However, I feel if you have somebody who, a loved one who's an empath, I think it's
Yeah.
important to be able to ground them, so that they don't end up into abusive relationships, or they don't end up into situations where, they get stuck, or they are just constantly exhausting themselves. So I think it's important to remind them that, okay, these are your innate, abilities or innate capacities. These are your strengths, and let's not, you know make it into weaknesses, or let's not, uh, allow people to, attack your
Yeah, take
image,
advantage of that
take advantage
aspect.
of that as an empath. Where
Hmm.
very, very classic example is of an empath and a narcissist relationship, where an empath is on the giving side and the narcissist is on the taking side. And it's a codependent relationship, and there's nothing new about it. It's very common. And
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's very important for an empath to realize that what they are into, and acknowledge, or rather be aware of what they are into.
Right. So what would be the, positive ways to care for someone who will give you, everything and anything that they have, and like, they will be there for you even though, they're you know, not even there for themselves at that moment. So how do you what's like a very healthy way to give back to an empath? Or maybe can that person help the empath to set boundaries or enforce the boundaries at least?
Yes, definitely. I think it's a lot to do with communication, being assertive, being affirmative as a loved one, as a friend, as a family, you know, to really be that strong anchor, or be that affirmative person who tells the empath that, see, these are your strengths, these are your wonderful, abilities, and this is what you need to feed, this is what you need not be feeding. So I think it's about communication, being assertive, and being affirmative as a loved one,
Hmm.
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think relationships are complicated anyway, and being like an empath, just like any other maybe personality trait, it just changes so much of how we feel when we're in a relationship, be it, platonic, romantic, sexual. So it becomes such a maze to just go through it and then just find that end and the exit, and it can be just so much sometimes. So how can we just to put it like positively, how is, I mean, obviously there are a lot of downsides to just being an empath, because obviously it's like a lot, and if you don't know how to set boundaries, it can be a real, like, like a tough challenge for that person. But it's always good to also be aware of those feelings, right? Just to put like that positive light. So how is that helpful, like, in light of being like an empath? Like, how is it a positive power?
Yeah. It's uh, being an empath, the positive power of being an empath, as we discussed, uh, it's a lot to do with your emotional sensitivity, rather your emotional capacity, or understanding your own sensory and emotional well-being, where uh, you're in touch with yourself, you're in touch with your own um, creativity, your own intuitiveness, uh, so that the world around you does not, uh, exhaust you, and you don't have to put in more energy just to replenish whatever you've lost, so that you save up whatever energy that you have, whatever emotional capacity that you're having, and you're able to, feed your own emotional well-being, or rather your your own um, needs of uh, needs of being an empath, or uh, and not listen to the world where they say that you're emotionally weak, or not listen to
Hmm.
the world when they say that you need to develop a thick skin. Okay, fine.
Hmm.
Yeah, everybody needs to develop a thick skin. uh,
Yeah,
but
but you don't
I'm an
need to lose
empath.
yourself in the
Yeah,
process.
I'm an empath.
Yeah.
I like what I feel. What do you
Yeah,
think?
exactly. I mean, I think it's always a positive to just be that self-aware and just, have that power over your emotions. Because obviously, I mean, once I think, like I think the point that we spoke about, like just caring for an empath, like if parents are able to see that, that a child of theirs is like, a bit more sensitive than the rest, and, the kids, and they feel a bit more, they, like maybe they're crying a bit more, but they get happy with like, those reels where kids get like a banana and they get so
Mhm.
happy about it, even though it's just lying there in their fruit bowls, but just because it's a gift, right? I mean, I think that is also a
Means
very
something.
positive
Yeah.
thing, to see. And I think parents like are maybe a primary factor in maybe cherishing that as well,
Yes.
and keeping that intact and letting them know that, okay, this is something you need to do. I mean, who doesn't face challenges, right? It's just a bit different for every the kind of person you are. So I
Yes.
think, in that way, I definitely, like you said, we do need to, develop a thick skin. But again, I think, you know, knowing what you feel is a power in itself.
Yes.
Just being aware of what you're feeling, or how you make others feel. Having the
Yes.
power to make someone feel better,
Yeah.
that is something special. I think,
Yes.
empath should really be proud of. And obviously, unless you're trying to make other people feel bad, obviously
Yeah.
don't do that, please. Nobody do that.
You
But
know
yeah, then you're not an empath.
what you
You would
just
be.
said, what you just said reminds me of
Yeah,
something Maya Angelou said, which is that you may forget what people say to you, you may forget what people did to you, but you will never forget what how people made you feel. So that is something
exactly,
which is
exactly.
so, it's so, it
So
resonates so much.
special.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that. Like, I feel people really need to understand that feeling emotions is not a bad thing.
Yes.
It's like what is needed right now. Like with everything going on in our world, like my gosh, what is not going wrong? I think the one thing you can keep, I think, is just trying to, I think, keep yourself at bay, everything in a balanced way, like feeling everything, trying to set those boundaries. I think, as you very, aptly said, that that's something that we need to do, and I think, yeah, I definitely think, I mean, obviously there will be challenges, but I think, yes, it's definitely, a good thing to be, although I may be a bit biased because I'm one myself, so I don't know, I'm going to leave that up to you to decide.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah, of course it is. But yeah, any other, tips right now you feel related to how to, like as young people, like we spoke about, how to care for a loved one, how to, the relationship aspect of it, and the parents bit of it, these challenges, like is there anything, in here that you would think right now, any, one of the young people like watching, is there something that you would want to tell them right now?
Yeah. Just that, just um, don't listen to people when they say you're emotionally oversensitive. When they say that it's a weakness. If you're emotionally sensitive, you know, let's acknowledge that. If you feel it's very evident to us whenever, when a young person, be it in teenage, as in teenage is the time where we start realizing that, we start picking up cues, and we start picking up these thoughts and belief systems, and that's where we also realize that, okay, I am a different person. I somehow don't fit into this world. I somehow feel, you know a lot of emotions. It's a lot of emotions inside me, and that's where, you need to feel uh, hopeful, I would say, and not helpless or hopeless or disheartened by it. Rather, understand that there is a beautiful world ahead of it. There's a beautiful world as an empath, as in or an emotionally sensitive person, where you can utilize those emotional sensitive aspects of your own being into something which is very beautiful, and be able to be a creative, intuitive person that that is going to change the world, which does not say that okay, you're an emotionally weak person. That's how you will change the world.
Yeah, no, definitely not a good thing to say to anyone, I think. And we can always count on the fact that, we're like able to just at least understand why we're feeling something. Understand that. I think that's just half of the battle won right there, because I mean, what's why to live in a world where you don't even understand what you're feeling, and you don't understand why, or maybe, but I mean, it's okay. You can go to a professional. Obviously, I mean, we're psychologists and psychiatrists here, so obviously, please do go seek help and,
Yes.
do ask someone if you do not, understand. And even anyone else still on the fence about what they, think an empath is, or who an empath could be, or if you're an empath, or like if you're not an empath, what are you? Like, please, just, comment on this live, or just ask us questions right here. I mean, we have Dr. Surali to answer them, and she'd be more than happy to. Or if not, you can just drop it on the post once this live is posted on our page. And I mean, Dr. Surali is also a psychiatrist with us on our platform. So, obviously you can anytime like book a session with her as well. But I don't see any questions here. So I think I don't have anything else to say. What about you, Dr. Surali? Anything last pointers you would want
Uh,
to give
yeah, I
before
would
we move
really
on?
love if people who are watching this, or who may watch this in future as a post, if they could really come up with their own anecdotes, or if they could come with if they could comment with their experiences as an empath, how they feel around people who are in distress, how they feel around, say, animals, or how they feel around when they're in nature, or how how they're just affected, or influenced by the energies around them, be it positive, be it negative, how vibes matter to them. I really want people to come up with their own experiences. I want to listen to those.
Yeah, I would be really happy to, hear about some experiences as well, like fellow empathia, and even those who are not empaths but know an empath in their lives who has always been there for them, made them feel happy or something like that. I think, just feel free to drop those experiences as well, and I'll be forwarding that to Dr. Sarali. For now, I think if there's nothing, we're going to be going off soon. Thank you so much, Dr. Surali, to share so much useful insight with us about being empaths,
Lovely.
and definitely making me feel at least a little bit better today. Just about being an empath, just dealing with everything else.
It's
Thank you
lovely. It's
so
lovely
much.
to
I
be an
hope you
empath. Yeah.
enjoyed. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Bye bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.